I know Benoit's probably in public safety.
I saw him, he said he was going to come here, so.
Okay.
Happy to do that, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
yeah, and I apologize that we're not all here, but I mean, we can get going at least, and again, if I interrupt, it's not because I don't like you, it's just that I got a quorum and I want to set it.
And I apologize for not having a white suit to wear yesterday, Senator.
That's okay. I mean, it's almost Labor Day, and we want to get them parked. But welcome aboard. You've got one bill before us. This is ACR 56.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Senators. When California voters approved Proposition 1A to authorize the governor to negotiate Indian gaming compacts, the proponents of that measure assured the voters that that measure would only allow limited gaming on existing tribal lands, and also that existing Indian lands were mainly in remote, rural areas of the state, and that approval of that measure would not result in tribal casinos being located in urban areas. Now, since the passage of Proposition 1A, some tribes backed by non-tribal financial interests and Nevada casino operators have violated the spirit of that proposition and have attempted to establish casinos far from their reservations, in many cases as close as possible to lucrative gambling markets such as San Francisco. Because of this, public concern around the state is growing over the location, expansion, and environmental impacts of tribal gaming on non-tribal lands in California. While the California Constitution authorizes the governor to negotiate and to conclude compacts subject to ratification by the legislature, neither federal nor state law specifically precludes the governor from going ahead and negotiating a compact before the land has been taken into trust and before there is jurisdiction over that land to conduct gaming. When the state does that, it goes beyond merely ratifying a compact relating to a federal decision about tribal gaming. It actually becomes an active promoter of new tribal gaming without regard for affected communities. This has already happened. The governor has negotiated and the legislature has ratified tribal state gaming compacts.
Time out. Secretary, call the roll.
Wright?
Here.
Wright present. Harmon?
Here.
Harmon present. Benoit?
Here.
Benoit present. Calderon? Denham? Flores? Negretti-McLeod? Here. Negretti-McLeod present. Oropeza? Padilla? Price? Here. Price present. Wiggins? Right. Wiggins present. Wyland? Yee? Yee present.
Okay. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Senator. So this has happened. The governor has negotiated and the legislature has ratified compacts before land was taken in trust and before jurisdiction was established sufficient to allow tribal gaming under federal law. In May of 2005, Governor Schwarzenegger promised a new policy for new off-reservation urban casinos. He issued a proclamation related to Indian gaming on newly acquired trust land. And among the promises in that new policy guidance were these. He said that he would decline to engage in negotiations for tribal state compacts where the Indian tribe does not have Indian lands eligible for Class 3 gaming. And he also said that he would only consider requests for gubernatorial concurrence for Class 3 gaming on newly acquired land where the land was not within an urbanized area, where the local jurisdiction in which the proposed project was located supported the project, and where the tribe and local jurisdictions had been able to demonstrate that affected local communities supported the project, such as by having an advisory vote. The problem is the governor proceeded to break those promises and ignore his own stated policies. He has negotiated gaming compacts with Indian tribes who did not have Indian lands eligible for Class 3 gaming.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, where did that occur? Where is Class 3 gaming occurring on a land that the Indians didn't have in trust?
He is I don't know if I can cite it where it's occurring, but he has negotiated the compacts. And we also know that
Where did that occur?
Do you have the specific ones? I think there were 3. We also know that he has been negotiating with the Grayton tribe in my district, which does not yet have the land in trust. So we know that that's at least a compact negotiation that has begun. The Paskenta band in September 1999 of Nomalaki Indians has been cited to me as an example.
Okay.
And were the other ones as well?
Did they finally get it in trust?
So in addition to Paskenta, there is I can't even pronounce some of these, Mr. Chair, I apologize. Fort Mojave Indian Tribe, the Secune Band of Mission Indians, June 2007. Looks like there are at least 4 or 5 examples.
So your concern would be the beginning of the negotiation as opposed to the fact that they
We have had both,
ultimately get it in trust?
Mr. Chair, we've had both the beginnings of negotiations, such as what's happened with the Grayton Tribe, and it looks like we've also had some concluded compact negotiations as well. Some of these have been approved by the legislature.
Okay.
So, again, the governor made some very specific promises about how he would proceed with negotiations for these type of compacts, and he broke those promises. He has negotiated compacts before the land was in trust and before it was eligible for gaming. ACR 56 simply holds the governor to his own promises and his own policy guidance. It urges him to refrain from negotiating a tribal state gaming compact to allow Class 3 gaming until land has been taken into trust for a tribe, until the tribe has jurisdiction over the land, and until the local jurisdiction and the local community have a chance to state whether or not they support that project. Now, the opposition to this seemingly simple resolution has been, with all due respect, I think a little schizophrenic. On the one hand, they have argued that this resolution would infringe on various rights, cost jobs, violate federal law, etc., forgetting apparently that this is a resolution. On the other hand, people have raised questions about what's the practical point of a resolution, since it is non-binding. And my response to that is simple. Local communities ought to have a voice in these very unique, controversial projects. In my own community, people want to have a voice. They want to know that if they hold an advisory measure to state their support or opposition for a proposed off-reservation urban casino, that somebody will listen to them. And that is a significant part of what this resolution does. It will send a clear policy message to parties that try to test the limits of federal and state laws in an attempt to obtain gaming compacts, that those attempts will not be considered by the legislature for ratification. And I respectfully request your aye vote.
You've got witnesses in support. Why don't they?
Mr. Chair, Senators Fred Jones, California Coalition Against Gambling Expansion, in strong support of the resolution. Whether or not the governor is being hypocritical or not is not our focus. Our focus is on the legislative body, the third branch of our state government. We see this resolution as setting clear standards and criteria by you all about what you will consider ratifying. So this is your bite at the apple, as it were. Instead of waiting for a compact that's already been negotiated without your input, which is basically a fait accompli, you will have an opportunity here to set clear standards. And what are those standards? They're simple. We will not permit reservation shopping in the state of California, which is essentially what happens when you start negotiating with a tribe that doesn't have land in trust. So that's step one. We don't support reservation shopping. And the other is you will support your constituents' right to have input. That's it. Those are clear standards, and we think this is a great opportunity for this body to exert itself in the tribal compact arena. Thank you.
Hi, Cindy Hillary, Regional Council of Rural Counties. From the perspective of the local community and local government, our organization has long supported the idea of local communities and local government being more intimately involved in the earlier on in the negotiation of tribal compacts due to the impacts on infrastructure in those areas, some of which are very rural and have very hard time meeting their fiscal obligations as it is without the additional pressures of tribal gaming in their areas. Thank you.
Further witnesses in support? Opposition? Supporter? Yes.
Well, that's what everybody's.
Okay. Well, don't it? Okay. Boom. Somebody.
Okay, Mr. Chairman and members, Barry Broad on behalf of Unite Here, Hospitality Union. We don't disagree that governors have been mercurial in their interpretations and sometimes change their minds. We've been the beneficiary of governor's views of these matters, and we've been the opposite of beneficiaries. Nonetheless, we don't think it's appropriate for the legislature to set out preconditions for the governor's negotiations with regard to compacts. The process is the governor negotiates in good faith under federal law with the tribes, reaches some kind of agreement, and the matter is brought to the legislature for ratification. But to preordain the legislature's views of any issue, I think, is not necessarily the way to go. We've not asked the legislature to pass a resolution saying that every tribal gaming compact shall have a card check agreement, even though that's what we would like, because we don't think it's appropriate for the legislature to weigh in advance on the subject. So we haven't asked for this, much as we'd love to, but it's just not appropriate to the process that's been created here. So we would urge a no vote. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Jay Hansen with the State Building Construction Trades Council. We have an agreement with the Groton Rancheria, and they've been a great partner with us, and we're here supporting construction jobs and jobs for the community and economic expansion for the tribe. We believe in the sovereignty of the Indian tribes to negotiate freely with the governor without the interference of the legislature until the appropriate time. We also believe that resolutions, unlike what some folks may say, we do believe that they have some legal binding, that they can be used in court proceedings, they can be referred to, so they actually do have. It is a meaningful proposition to pass a resolution. That's why we think it's important to stand in opposition to this. We're about trying to give some economic opportunity, and time again, we find people in this building that are trying to stop economic expansion. We need to focus on jobs, and I understand there needs to be a balance, but until we get back into the business of providing people with a economic platform, our state's going to continue going down, and we have an opportunity to do it in this particular case, and we would urge a no vote on this resolution.
I'm going to ask the other people to, if you'd identify yourselves, and you'll understand that in a moment, but if you would identify yourselves, because I want to hear from everyone who's got registered opposition.
Paula Treat, on the behalf of the Pechanga Band of Luciño Mission Indians, wholeheartedly opposing. Thank you.
Phil Eisenberg's Kwan Band of the Kumeyaay Nation, San Diego, opposed.
Pilar Oñate Quintana with KP Public Affairs here on behalf of the Barona Band of Mission Indians, also strongly opposed.
Brian Masterson, Director of Public Safety for the City of Roanoke Park. Mr. Chair? Ed Manning on behalf of KP Public Affairs. We're here representing Great Rancheria, who was specifically called out in the author's testimony. If we could beg your indulgence, Chief Masterson and another witness who chairs the Friends of Great are here to demonstrate local support, and if you would give us just a few minutes to talk about the local support, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, but go ahead.
We're going to keep it short, but they've traveled to
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Susan Moore, and I'm president of the Friends of the Federated Indians of Great Rancheria. We have 7,000 people who have signed cards throughout Sonoma County supporting this. We have an advisory board of over 90 of community leaders that reflect pretty much all of the different constituencies, plus our board. I have been in Sonoma County for over 30 years. I formed a group called the No Name Women's Group over 20 years ago with 10 women. It now has 350, and pretty much is the women's leadership of Sonoma County. We elected 8 women the last election, the time before that 8, and we expect to do better this time. I'm also involved in a lot of other things that you're probably not interested in. I'm here today to talk about the Grayton tribe being a model for the country. and the cooperation that they've extended, starting with moving off of the site there on 37 when they found that it was environmentally fragile. But they left the $4.5 million to the Bay Institute so that they could protect that watershed, plus an additional $75,000 so that they could lobby and get fundraising money, and now that is protected. They also, as the chief will talk about, formed a special crime unit in Rohnert Park. They have an MOU with them. They have a limited MOU with the county. This group has also worked with the Laguna Santa Rosa, Arts and Ecology, the Climate Protection Campaign, all in the environmental area. They have given tons of money to the colleges, SSU, the Junior College, and the College of Marin. We're talking here about 3,200 jobs, union with full benefits, that will make a huge, huge difference in Sonoma County, plus about 1,600 jobs that will be spillover jobs. These are all high-paying jobs. We think that the resort casino is going to be an actual engine, a financial engine to bring us into the black, with taxes going to our cities and to our county, so that maybe we can put back some of these draconian cuts that have had to be made. So I think that we have very good reasons for wanting you not to support this resolution. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. On behalf of public safety, we have some concerns about the resolution. As you know, Rohnert Park, like all cities in California, we're in a survival mode. My department, public safety, we took a 20% hit in our budget, $4.5 million reduction. We've had to lay off staff. The Federated Indians of Great Rancheria have been excellent stakeholders in the community. In a time when we have dwindling resources, the tribe continues through the MOU to fund public safety. This past year, they gave us over $500,000 for a special investigative unit, which focuses on parolees, sex offenders, gang members, and career criminals. Without that money, we would not have that unit in Rohnert Park. They also provide counseling for substance abuse. And again, these are all dwindling resources in Sonoma County. So without the support and funding for these programs, our county is impacted. And again, certainly in the city of Rohnert Park, would be a less safe city. So we're very concerned about this resolution. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members, good morning. Jerome Encinas on behalf of the California Nations Indian Gaming Association. We have a 32-tribe association strongly opposed to the measure.
Thank you.
Holly Fermini on behalf of Platinum Advisors and on behalf of the Elk Valley Rancheria and Weapai Band of Kumeyaay Indians, both in opposition to this bill.
Okay.
Carolyn Veal Hunter on behalf of the Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians, strongly opposed to the bill as well. Urge your no vote.
Jerry Cassesi, I'm president of Friends of Amador County. I'm here to urge that you do pass this resolution. I want to give you just a brief history of what's happened to us folks in Amador County. We had a compact in '99. We had a revision of that compact in 2004. 0 public hearings on those compacts prior to the signing of the compact. We were told by the governor's office that we would have an audience with his staff because we had some information.
So you're in favor of the resolution?
I'm in favor of the resolution.
I just wanted to clarify this.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And we didn't get that audience until 2 days after the new compact the revised compact was signed. There's tremendous, at times in a rural area, there's tremendous environmental impacts. I'm just going to give you one on Buena Vista Rancheria, and this is a tribe of one person. I'll just give you one impact. We've got 20 school bus stops in that area twice a day. They're 2-lane roads. Out of those 20 school bus stops, 19 of them block one lane of the road because there's no shoulder, there's no other place to get off. It's foggy in the wintertime. They're going to serve alcohol 24/7. The response to that situation in the TEIR is 0. The response is, we can't enforce the traffic laws, so there's nothing we can do about it. And so there's a flip side to this thing. There is jobs, but there's also a flip side to the community, and we got an 84% no more casinos in Amador County vote. But the public is without a voice. They're without a voice prior to this, and I think this resolution would at least give us that voice. Thank you for allowing us to speak.
Thank you, sir.
Butch Cranford, no casino in Plymouth, representing the community there. I hear a lot of talk about jobs and money. We're missing a fundamental fact here, and I think what Assemblyman Huffman is trying to remind us is that it's a matter of law. We need to follow the law. There was a question about lands eligible. Have compacts been negotiated for tribes who have no land eligible for Class 3 gaming? The answer to that in California is most assuredly yes. In my county of Amador, Buena Vista, the land is not eligible. It's in the courts at this point in time. Jackson Rancheria, the land is not eligible. There's an operating Class 3 casino. This state is filled with Indian gaming operating on lands not eligible. The state of California has no process. The legislative body nor the governor's office has no process by which they verify the eligibility of any of the lands on which Indian gaming is now taking place or is proposed to take place. This is a serious issue and it needs to be addressed. Assemblyman Huffman's resolution is simply one small step in that direction. If anyone on this panel is interested, I would be more than happy to work with you or your staffs to help you understand the eligibility criteria and how in California the tribes, with the assistance of the National Indian Gaming Commission, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and the Department of Interior, has simply sidestepped the law. The question here, again, is not about money, it's not about jobs, it's about obeying the law. I think the governor had good intentions when he promised to the people of California the things that he would do. It's time for this committee and the legislative body, the Senate and the Assembly of the State of California, to begin to look after the interests of the citizens of this state and begin to obey the law. Thank you.
My name is Jeff Lingle. I'm a union carpenter out of Local 46. And I've been out of work for almost a year now. And I need this work. So I'm against this. Thank you.
My name is Brian McMillan. I'm a union carpenter, Local 46. I oppose this because I've been out of work for almost 7 to 8 months, and I just oppose it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Paul Cohen, Director of Government Relations for Northern California Carpenters. I have about a dozen of my fellow brothers and sisters in addition to the two you just heard from. With due respect, I think a significant part of this is about jobs, particularly with respect to the Great Rancheria, an agreement in place to build this 100% union, and as you heard from HERE, to negotiate to operate a union. And the local issue, there is support because they are clearly trying to do the right thing. They are working with the local community to mitigate impacts. We're also concerned about the precedent here in terms of the number of members we have working or potentially working in other casinos. You need to understand we've seen the figures about unemployment in California at 11, maybe approaching 12%. In the construction industry, it's 25%. We see no change this year, probably in the third quarter of next year, and maybe beyond. We have an opportunity to put people to work, to pay their taxes, to get the state back on the right track. We need to take those opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, Duncan McFetters representing the State Pipe Trades Council, the State Association of Electrical Workers, and the Western States Council of Sheet Metal Workers in strong opposition to the bill.
Mr. Chairman, Josh Pane on behalf of the Morongo Band of Mission Indians and would urge your opposition to this measure. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Further opposition?
John Coburn. John Coburn, Mayor of the City of Plymouth, Plymouth, California, just east of here, 40 miles. Plymouth is a prime example of the impacts of casino shopping. A tribe came to Plymouth, tried to establish an agreement with the City Council of the City of Plymouth, and asked why they picked Plymouth, and they said, well, you're the only place that didn't say no. It went on, the council was making agreement with them, and there was a vote, actual vote in the City of Plymouth. 75% of the people voted to oppose any more gaming casinos. The council went ahead and made an agreement with these people, and 3 members of the City Council were recalled. Subsequently, the agreement they made was thrown out by the State Supreme Court. It's just a prime example of not having input from the local community, and you would wonder why Plymouth would be so opposed. We have a casino in Plymouth, in Amador County, just 10 miles from us. And the citizens of Amador County are subsidizing that casino by $800,000 a year currently. So when these people from Sonoma County think they're going to get into the black from having a casino there, it's not the case in Amador County. With the loss of taxes, the sales tax, the property tax, and other revenues, the county's taken a hit for over $4 million. So that's why we oppose the casino and the casino shopping, is because the negative impact it's had on us, the tremendous impact it's had on our schools, and there's been no subsidies or any replacement funds to make up for those taxes.
So I want to make clear, so you're in support of the resolution?
Right.
Okay.
And 83%, basically 83% of the people in Amador County are in support of this resolution, having the public's involvement.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Mike Healy, a member of the Petaluma City Council in Sonoma County. What strikes me is the incongruous nature of the testimony this committee has heard this morning. On the one hand, the Great Rancheria is trying to make this great show of community support that it has, it claims it has in the county. On the other hand, they're afraid of an advisory measure. And they have good reason to be, because in Petaluma we actually had our own advisory measure citywide 3 years ago on a different proposed casino right on our southern boundary. That got 79% support to oppose that casino, 79 to 21%, with no campaign whatsoever. That gives you the idea of the depth of sentiment in our region with respect to a major casino that is refusing to mitigate its impacts. And what has people most exercised in my community, and we're 15 miles away, not so much the direct impacts that would come to the neighborhood of the casino, but the water supply issues, and especially the impacts on Highway 101, because the Grayton Casino is proposing to add several thousand vehicle trips per day to Highway 101 and not spend one nickel in mitigation to resolve that problem. So the interesting thing, too, is when we tried to get an advisory measure on the ballot in Sonoma County a year ago, the argument that the Grayton supporters were making to our board of supervisors.
Okay, so you're supporting the resolution?
Yes, sir.
Okay, got that. Let me move to the.
Yes, sir. The argument that was made.
No, I got your support. I got it. I mean, we heard it. You're from Petaluma, and 79% of the people.
One last point. It was a very interesting point.
Okay.
I think. And that is when we're trying to encourage the Board of Supervisors to place an advisory measure on the ballot county-wide with respect to the Grayton Rancheria, the argument was it doesn't matter, it makes no difference whatsoever. And Assemblyman Huffman's bill would rebut that argument and say, yes, it does make a difference because it will be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, John Mayer, Counsel for the Federated Indians of Grayton Rancheria. I wasn't going to speak, but I just want to correct a couple of things on the record. First, no tribes in California are gaming on non-Indian lands. Secondly, the governor has followed his proclamation. The confusion is arising over tribes that have Indian lands, and the governor has negotiated for an alternative site with those tribes under what is known as the secretarial two-part determination under Section 20 of IGRA. The Federated Indians of Grayton Rancheria are going through a separate process which allows them to game on lands acquired after 1988 if they are determined to be restored lands. And this site that the tribe has proposed is about 7 to 8 miles from its former rancheria, which was terminated in the 1960s.
Okay.
Finally, I just want to...
Let me do something, because what's the pleasure of the committee? Is there a motion for this resolution? Okay. There's no motion here, Assemblyman, so absent there being a motion, there's no closing because there's no motion.
Mr. Chair, I would like an opportunity to speak to some of the points that have been raised, and then perhaps we could talk about how to move forward.
Well, but again, I'm going to let you have a close, but right now you don't have a motion, so we ain't going to move forward too far if there's no motion. And right about now, this just doesn't look like your day.
Well, I'd like a chance to speak to the issues, Mr. Chair. I've got folks that have come a long way, and I've got a community that cares very deeply about this issue. And the first point that I want to make, when you and I were talking about some of the prior compact negotiations. We listed off a few of the tribes, including Pesquenta and others. I certainly do not mean to imply that those were not legitimate land to trust decisions. I do not mean to imply that we should go backward and reopen those decisions. I simply am citing examples of where compacts have been negotiated before land to trust processes have been completed. It has happened before, and the goal of this resolution is to say that going forward, regardless of the past, we ought to make sure that the cart is not in front of the horse. We ought to make sure that the federal land to trust process is complete and jurisdiction is established before we, the state of California, get into the business of negotiating and ratifying compacts. That seems like a pretty simple proposition of good public policy in this area. Now, the question arises in light of the folks that you've just heard from, what is so threatening about the proposition of saying that the legislature intends to listen to local communities on decisions that will very, very substantially impact those communities? I am in some ways floored by the fact that this is so threatening to so many people, the idea that a community might actually have a voice. Not that the legislature is saying we won't approve those compacts, just saying that we intend to listen to what the public has to say. That seems fair. It seems only fair, and right now we know that there are powerful interests aligned in support of expanding tribal gaming. We see that. We've created, in the last decade or so, a multi-billion-dollar industry that has tremendous influence over the way this body does business, quite frankly. And I think it's time to maybe swing the pendulum back a little bit, to say to the communities, to the constituencies that elected us to represent them, that they too are going to have a voice here in the capital of the state of California when it comes to matters that substantially affect those communities. Now, I think the spirit of Prop 1A was very clear. Folks who supported Prop A, including myself, supported tribal sovereignty. We supported the idea of allowing gaming on Indian lands. We're good with that. I'm very proud of the fact that the Tribal Business Alliance has a measure of support for tribal issues that doesn't just involve gaming. It includes the full array of tribal issues. I'm very proud to have a 100% score on that measure. But I think when it comes to these off-reservation casino projects in urban areas, the very thing that the voters were told would not happen when they passed Proposition 1A, and the very thing that is happening like wildfire around the state of California, and especially in the Bay Area and a few other places, where these tribes are trying to leapfrog each other to get ever closer to the lucrative urban market, the pendulum has to swing back in favor of communities at least having a voice. That's all I'm trying to do. Okay. I'm trying to say you will have a voice. Doesn't seem that controversial to me. So I would at least request a courtesy motion, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move this forward.
Okay. The difficulty is I'm not sure that you have a motion, and we'll take that as your close. There being no motion, then this bill will remain with the committee for lack of a motion. And that being your close, if there's any other comment by the committee. Senator Harmon?
Yes, I do have several comments, but in view of the developments that it looks like we're going to have, I guess I'll just refrain. But one of them is procedural, that this is a concurrent resolution and a resolution of the Assembly, and yet it's a gut and amend, and it has nothing to do. It came over here as a resolution dealing with Earth Day, and now it's dealing with Indian gaming. So I have very serious procedural questions and issues with it. So, and I have other concerns too. I simply can't support the resolution.
Okay. All right. Well, Assemblyman, there's not a great deal more I can do for you. If there's nothing further from the committee, we'll be adjourned.